So pretty much this video is going to be an update video, because yesterday I made a theory about what could lead to the Piltover and Zaun event that seems like it's coming, right? And we talked about, well, maybe it's just some lore stories, or maybe it's a versus event about internal affairs or something like that. But in yesterday's video, I made a theory about Noxus and its ever-expanding empire, and I made the mistake of dismissing it because I didn't really think it would be super prominent. Like, the way I see this event going on is just kind of as a way to flesh out what new Piltover and new Zaun is, now that they have an idea of what the world of Runeterra is that's going to be going forward. They have a map out now, for example, and things like that. And so I'm thinking that a lot of these, when they do these events nowadays, it's not going to be quite to the Bilgewater level where it was about, getting some map skins and getting some lore about some of the characters that way. Because in those particular cases, it was like a Gangplank rework, for example. None of the Piltover and Zaun champions are really getting reworks at the moment. There's a new one that got released, but not really reworks. And I just keep saying that to say, so that's why I think played a part into it, right? With this, I thought, or at least I thought originally, it was going to be more about just kind of fleshing out, getting to know more about the area, and then some more backstories with the champions in the area. But then, I did make that Noxus statement, and I kind of dismissed it for that reason. That's the main reason I dismissed it, was like, this is more of like a fleshing out kind of thing. That, and in the older lore, like Noxus and Zaun, I wouldn't really say they were friends, but they were far from enemies. They were further on the spectrum towards friends than enemies, or at least allies. And same with Piltover and Demacia for that example. And now that Zaun kind of just is the underbelly of Piltover, I kind of imagine that Noxus wouldn't be messing with Zaun. But I guess that kind of does leave Piltover free to be messed with. Because if you think about it, Piltover and Demacia were kind of allies, and then Zaun and Noxus were kind of allies, so, Noxus might not like Piltover all that much. And that was the old lore, again, so that's why I dismissed all of this stuff. So now this is the part where I talk about some spoilers. They released a short story yesterday called Progress Day. And pretty much what we find out in the story, the really long story short of it, is that Noxus kind of pretty much sent 2 sleeper agents to kind of map out Piltover and give Noxus kind of like a map of Piltover. And it kind of ends with Caitlyn finding out about one of them and just getting them kicked out of Piltover immediately. Which also, on a second note, in yesterday's video we did mention about Caitlyn's VGU. We didn't think it'd be too soon for it to drop, but in this story her attire is described differently than the one she currently has, so possibly hinting at that VGU even more. But beyond that, that's the long story short of the story was they were Noxus kind of sleeper agents in Piltover. One of them got busted and taken out. The other one, well, the story ended, so we don't actually know if they don't know about the other one, or if the other one just hadn't been caught yet, because maybe they're actually setting the groundwork for a much more major event. And the reason I'm making this video is because I don't want to make it hey, I'm bragging, I called it, hey, I said Noxus could be a thing, it's an ever-expanding empire kind of narrative thing. It's not really to throw that in people's faces or anything like that, though I do want to just put it on the record that I did say that, even though I did then dismiss it, so I think I kind of disqualified myself. But I do think it's kind of interesting, because now it leads a little bit more questions about how other champions could be involved. Because one of the things I came up with, one of the consistent points in my video yesterday, was maybe Camille uncovers some sort of conspiracy within Piltover and Zaun that forces the other champions to have to react in a certain way. For example, maybe it's about the Glorious Evolved. It's some sort of conspiracy around there, in which case Jace takes it one way, thinking, all the glorious, maybe he thinks all the more glorious evolved people are like Victor, in which case Victor's an enemy of his, so in which case he's kind of think it's bad, or at least will be distant from it, while Victor on the other hand sees it as a completely different, point of view, in which case, okay, some of them are kind of corrupt, and then some of them can be more like this, and the reason they're corrupt is because they think of it more religiously, and that's why you should be on the science side of it, and let me show you the science behind why this is actually fantastic. Stuff like that. And I thought, for example, if that was one conspiracy, that's how maybe other champions respond, because then maybe Victor kicks some of his, plans into high gear about the Battlecast army and stuff like that. And then different champions have to respond to, this potential threat of the Battlecast army, etc., etc. That was an idea, and it starts with Camille being the new champion that was released, and it goes on from there. Now it might actually be something about, Noxus trying to expand its empire into Piltover, for that matter. The way the story was described, half of Zaun was destroyed, potentially due to Piltover's arrogance and just their goals and stuff like that. And Zaun was kind of thrown away and kind of left to be forgotten, stuff like that. So it's not invading would they'd get a lot of resistance from Zaun in particular, because A, maybe they want to see Piltover fall, and B, if the old lore isn't completely eradicated, Maybe Zaun and Noxus still have ties, so they'd all be for like a Trojan horse style attack. You have the War Masons getting the maps down for you, and then you can just come in from Zaun up to Piltover and like just take it over that way, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it opens the door to more possibilities that way, because that seems like that could be something that could line up potentially. And how other champions might be involved is could be like, well, we talked about Jinx, for example. We talked about if Camille's really existed for 80 to 90 years, there's no way she doesn't know of Jinx's existence. Now, granted, we don't know how old Jinx is, but I'm pretty sure she's not 80 to 90 years old. I'm pretty sure she's not even half of, you know, that age. And that's just to say, so ever since Jinx has started causing havoc in Piltover, Camille would have known about it immediately if she wanted to go and like remove Jinx from the equation. But that's the thing, Camille isn't necessarily like a law-abiding citizen or law-upkeeping abiding citizen of Piltover. That's more like Caitlyn and Vi's job. Camille's thing is more just about keeping the balance or keeping the favor, what progresses Piltover, what is in Piltover's best interest by any means necessary. And that doesn't necessarily mean upholding the law, that just means by any way she sees necessary to ensure Piltover's future. Now, I say Jinx, for example, is because, okay, then you could have taken out Jinx, because I don't think destroying Piltover is Piltover's progress. But then these War Masons and this whole map idea comes into the play, and I'm thinking, what if, this is a stretch, by the way, this is a stretch, I just want to put that out there, this is a stretch, I'm not confirming anything, and I don't even know this is possibly true, I'm just saying this to say, maybe. What if she's allowing Jinx to exist specifically because she keeps destroying parts of Piltover? What if this is the conspiracy Camille has found out, is about Noxus's plot to potentially want to invade Piltover or something like that, so she allows Jinx to destroy things, because then when they try and infiltrate and do like this map work and pretty much map out Piltover, parts of it, you know, the map are now irrelevant because, you know, Jinx has been around destroying parts of it. In which case, yeah, from a law perspective, that's not a reason to let Jinx exist. But from a, hey, this benefits Piltover from an outside attack perspective, well then there you go. Sorry about that. Now, furthermore, the reason why this could possibly be the conspiracy that sets it all off is because in the story, again, spoiler, it's implied that there's a chance Caitlyn, despite the detective that she is, and the sheriff of Piltover after all, isn't actually the one that found out about this, like, you know, mole, so to speak. There's a chance she was tipped off. She got a tip, and then she followed up on that tip to take one of them out. And it could be possible that it was Camille that gave that tip. We don't know. Like, it didn't say the tip, who it was from. It could have been anonymous, in which case it could have been Camille saying, hey, look, here, law, do your job as the law. Here you go. And in which case she's following up on the other lead. Maybe she knows that there is a second person, and so she's hunting the second person, and that's what starts it off. Like, who knows, right? Because going to the story real quick, pretty much they're all apprentices. I think it's called Apprenta. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. But they have inventions, they have creations, and they want to get pretty much on the good side of these, like, pretty much high prestige clans in Piltover to be, like, within their ranks, so to speak, as, like, I guess they're craftsmen or something like that. In which case, if you have a mole within, like, the higher hierarchy of Piltover, that should at least give you some influence, or at least know what the higher levels of Piltover will be planning from that perspective. Now, granted, Camille is from a family like that, so Camille might be researching this on her own, in which case that might be what starts the event off. Noxus is trying to invade Piltover, and then Zaun doesn't really care, because Zaun kind of just, like, hates Piltover for what happened to Zaun. Maybe they don't hate Piltover, because even though they hate to admit it, they kind of need each other because they're two halves of the same machine, so they all together are actually resisting Noxus, and it's kind of like Bilgewater, where Gangplank and Misfortune, despite being enemies, were fighting the Harrowing, or at least usually fight the Harrowing in past events. It was implied. Maybe it's those two factions against Noxus and its ever-expanding empire. I'm hesitant to say that this is a thing. I do think this evidence allows more theory crafting around this theory, so it does make it a little bit more exciting, but the reason I'm hesitant to say, oh yeah, this definitely must be the thing, is because that would probably get Demacia involved. They would have to respond, I imagine. And I don't think they're trying to make this a huge, like, multi-city-state, like, Civil War, Avengers-style kind of, like, mash. I think they're trying to focus it mainly on Piltover and Zaun. And of course, there's other champions we can talk about. I'm going to keep the video short because, for all I know, by the time I make this video, they're going to drop another story, in which case I have to make another video tomorrow about it. So I'm going to leave this video at this and just ask you the question, with this, you know, Progress Day was the name of the story, by the way. So with Progress Day story coming out, learning about Noxus and its ever-expanding empire potentially being a thing, learning about the history about how Zaun and Piltover even view Progress Day, what do you think if this event is going to pop off and be more than just a fleshing out of lore stories, is going to be the conclusion? How is this event going to go? who's going to be who versus who and what's going to happen. So feel free to leave that in the comments section and we can have a discussion about it, but that's all for this video. Thank you for watching if you did watch this far, but life is full of a lot of kinks, so I don't know which video will be next. So until next time, take care from the Fire God FS.